Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bernd and I'm leading the team responsible for the implementation of the LIFE sub-program Climate Action at the Green Deal agency, CINEA. Together with my team, we will prepare the call structure with a focus on the call priorities, the call document, the application forms, and also the evaluation process. In this presentation, we will focus on the standard action projects, the SAPs, and not on any other project type covering the LIFE program. What has changed compared to the proposal preparation and the submission in previous years? Quite a lot. The LIFE submission system is now integrated with the European Commission's Funding and Tender Opportunities website. Through this website, you will find the open live calls for proposals, and you will find the respective topics. For the LIFE sub-program, Climate Action, Standard Action Projects, you will find 3 topics, which are Climate Change Mitigation, CCM, Climate Change Adaptation, CCA, and the 3rd topic, Climate Governance and Information, GOV, with the respective topic IDs, which you can see on the right side. For example, LIFE-2021-SAP-Klima-CCM. So this will be the identifier for the specific topics. For the call priorities, I would like to hand over to my colleague Darek.
Thank you very much, Bernd. It's a pleasure not to see you actually, everyone, but it's a pleasure to be able to give you this presentation and to have this opportunity to invite everyone to come back to the LIFE program and submit your applications to our program that is focusing on climate change adaptation mitigation. As Bernd said, what I'm going to speak to you about is I'm going to introduce you to the first topic of this 2021 year called, which is called LIFE 2021 SAP Standard Action Project, Klima, and the focus of this presentation will be the climate change mitigation. The key objectives of the climate change mitigation have not much changed since the last year. So we're still focusing on actions that will contribute to the socially just and sustainable transitions towards climate neutral economy by 2050 and to aim to reduce the European emissions by 55% by 2030 as comparison to levels of 1990. And specifically, what the climate change mitigation scope area we look for would be that your projects contribute to, among many others, renewable energy, energy efficiency, the emission trading system, energy and greenhouse gas intensive production, land use, agriculture and forestry, conservation and enhancement of natural carbon links, transported fuels, F-gases and ozone-depleting substances, as well as greenhouse monitoring and reporting. So you can see, in terms of the policy-focused legislation that we're focusing on for this 2021 year call, there is not much change. The change will be noticeable when we move to the next slide. Please. Can you move to the next slide, please? Thank you. Thank you very much, Bernd. So as you can see, the change, instead of what we used to have in previous years, when we have policy areas and work areas, we have now scopes. And among those 4 scopes for the 2021 call, we still focus, the scope number 1, on actions to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in sectors that are not covered by the EU trading system, including reduction of F-gases and ozone-depleting substances, actions that will enhance functioning of the European emission trading system that will have impact on the energy and greenhouse gas intensive industrial production. We'll also look in the scope number 3 to increase the generation and use of renewable energy and improvement of energy efficiency. And as you can see in the second sentence for this scope, we'll focus on activities that are not covered by the Clean Energy Transition sub-program. As you know, in the new structure of the LIFE program that we started in 2021, the LIFE program was joined by the Clean Energy Transition, and colleagues from Clean Energy Transition will make a separate presentation to you on the areas and focus of their priorities for the next year. So for this particular scope, We'll focus on activities that you submit to us, which are not covered by that sector. I'll get to that more once we move to the further slides. And the fourth scope of the of climate change mitigation is to develop the development of land and sea management practices, which will have impact on emissions and removal of emissions, conservation, and enhancement of natural carbon sinks. And this scope will be further described by my colleague Hana later on. But as you can see right now, you can already notice that in addition to land, we also will focus on sea management practices. So this is a novelty, but again, Hana will explain that further. Now, as I said before, we have 4 scopes, and then among the scopes, we have possible areas of intervention. When you receive the call for proposal, you will see this new structure more clearly described there. But for the purpose of this presentation, we'll only try to focus on the key elements. So again, we have 4 scopes, and this is the first one. And within those scopes, we have possible areas of interventions. Here we have just a general description. When you look to the call, you will see more details. So for the scope number 1, for the climate change mitigation, again, this is sectors which are not covered by the EU ETS. We'll focus again, as in previous years, on activities that will aim to remove hydrofluorocarbons and other fluorinated greenhouse gases and ozone depleting substances. Again, this is similar, and similarly to the previous years, we'll again focus on your projects that will look into availability of suitable alternatives to fluorinated gases, the reclamation and recycling of fluorinated gases, and the removal of barriers posed by specific standards. To give you some more details for this specific area, we'll be looking for projects that are related to demonstration, pilot, and best practice. So again, as in the past. And again, as in the past, we'll look into activities that support air conditioning and refrigeration equipment. We'll look at the heat pumps. We'll look at the organic ranking cycles. We'll look into initiatives that will improve or support the metered dose inhalers. We'll look at niche applications that are an alternative that will change, for example, the heating and cooling systems in the transmission networks, in the refrigerating sectors, the supermarket sectors, and so on and so forth. Again, this area will be also covered by our policy colleagues in the governance and information. The second possible area of intervention for this particular scope are actions to support the shift to zero emission mobility. So this is something new. We used to focus on transport to a certain extent, but for this call, we're moving with the time and we're focusing on providing and helping to develop the network for electric vehicles. As you know, the electric vehicle sector is it's developing quite fast, and the demand for the EU and demand from our citizens is to support that move. Therefore, we identify several areas that will help this process, and among those are to support the development of fast, super fast electric recharging infrastructure, to look into high-pressure hydrogen refueling facility. As you know, the hydrogen sector is also developing quite fast, so we're also looking at interventions that will help to develop this area. And as previously, we're also will be very happy if you help us to identify barriers or other technical standards that would prevent further and faster move to reaching these objectives. And of course, this entire action will focus on renewables. Obviously, what we're trying to do here, is to reduce the dependence on fossil fuels and to speed up the shift towards more sustainable transport modes. Thank you, Bernd, for moving the slide. Now, the second scope, as I mentioned before, is focusing on ETS sectors. So it's all of those sectors that are related to intensive industrial production, which are highly energy and greenhouse gas dependent, to say. This area of the scope will focus on actions that support the transfer of energy-intensive industries so that they consume less energy and at the same they emit less emissions and at the same time pollutants, and specifically sectors which are exposed to a significant risk of carbon leakage. And as you know, those sectors are, again, as in the past, to give you an example, it could be glass, cement, and similar. Priority will be given to design, develop, and implement innovative and cost-effective technologies. Again, that will contribute to significant reduction and timely of greenhouse gas emissions. We will ideally look into activities that will start our technical readiness level 4-5 and finish at the level 8 and 9, and then move close to the market. What is important is that the projects that you prepare or submit for this particular scope, that they have a high potential to be transferred within the sector or to other sectors. And of course, we use or we approve all we are technology neutral, therefore the proposals may address a variety of technological solutions and processes. Moving now to the third scope of the climate change mitigation. This is, as I mentioned before, these are activities that will help increase the generation and use of renewable energy and improve the energy efficiency. Projects in this area, again, as I mentioned before, are supposed to cover those priorities which are not covered under the clean energy transition. The scope of these activities, although related to the clean energy transition, but contrary to the CET program, will not necessarily cover all types of projects. However, we will look at projects which are scalable and more ready to access the market. The next scope for climate change mitigation is related to the so-called green mitigation. But before we move to that, I would like to give you a few examples of projects that have been successfully implemented in the past and projects that are related to those scopes. The first example is Project Optimalt, which is related to the energy-intensive industry. In this specific case, it's a glass company which introduced a heat recovery system with a very delicate system of producing glass of high quality, and they reach significant reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, other pollutants, and also energy efficiency. The second project is related to replacement of F-gases, carbon for retail. This applicant, this project implementer, aimed to come up with several solutions to replace the highly potent fluorinated gases that are used in the cooling sector by replacing them with the CO2 alternatives, which obviously have a lower global warming potential. Very successful project. The examples of the prototypes are being used now in a number of supermarkets, both in North and in the southern part of Europe. So they are reflecting on the different climatic conditions. And furthermore, another success of both of those two projects was that while they were moving with the technology, they were also able to provide an excellent policy feedback. And this is what we're also expecting from all of our applicants, that you provide the policy impact that can improve the overall European policy development process in terms of climate change mitigation and adaptation. And the last example, it's a Polish project which come up with quite innovative idea. It's called Urban Wind. This project tried to utilize urban space for wind energy generation. As you know, you can install the wind power in open areas, in open fields, or in the sea. However, there are not that many attempts or experiments to use a wind that is generated, for example, by metro passing through the tunnel, by trains, by roads, using a higher wind potential that is occurring, let's say, on golf courses or in the middle of the bridges. Very successful project with interesting examples, contributing to, in this case specifically, for example, for Warsaw Metro, by installing those turbines in some of the metro sections, the energy generated by wind that is created by passing metro trains, for example, supports the lighting of some of the stations. So these are completely new areas, very interesting and worth to multiply. So these are just the three examples that I wanted to show you for this climate change mitigation area. Of course, we have many more, and you can see them on our website. We're also available to help you and provide you with some advice. And from my side, I would like to invite you to apply again this year. It's a unique year. It's a new project, new program. So you might have more questions than usual, but we are available to help you out. And with this, I would like to thank you, and I would invite my colleague Hana, who is also a member of the climate change mitigation team, and she would explain you the fourth scope for climate change mitigation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Darek, for passing me the floor. My name is Hana Mandelikova, and it's my pleasure to talk today about the scope for land and sea management practices. So the full title of the scope is the development of land and sea management practices which have an impact on emissions and removals of emissions, conservation and enhancement of natural carbon sinks. What are the possible areas of intervention? Well, we encourage you to submit projects focusing on practices that enhance carbon removals in soil and biomass. Here we refer to, for example, improved forest management, reforestation, or restoration of forest. Practices that protect existing carbon stocks in soil and biomass, for example, peatland restoration. Use of harvested biomass in long-lived products to ensure long-term storage. Here as an example is the use of wooden products for construction. And practices that decrease non-CO2 emissions from agriculture, such as precision agriculture or sustainable livestock or manure management. We also really encourage the projects to include carbon farming approach either to develop or to uptake GHG monitoring tools at the land parcels level to enable robust certification of climate impact, or to develop a business model which would remunerate the different actors for the results of climate-friendly land management practices, such as this carbon credit certificates, which are then bought by local actors or stakeholders, and those ideally in co-benefit with adaptation or, for example, biodiversity conservation aspects. And also we encourage the projects to cooperate closely or to involve CAP management authorities to ensure the uptake of those methodologies or tools on carbon farming, which are developed within the projects to be used in the CAP strategic plans, national CAP strategic plans. As an example of a green mitigation project, I would like to mention a project which is called Live Climark. It's a project which takes place in Spain, and it was launched in 2017, and it's expected to be finalized in 2022. The full title of this project is Promotion of Project Management for Climate Change Mitigation through the design of a local market of climatic credits. This project has three main objectives. The first objective is to maintain and improve carbon mitigation potential in European Mediterranean forests through multifunctional forest management. This multifunctional forest management focuses on carbon sequestration in biomass and in soils, but also in reduction of forest risks, optimization of water consumption, and also it focuses on biodiversity conservation. The project also designs and develops a local market for carbon or for climatic credits. And then it raises the awareness, capacity building, and prepares the tools for the actors who are willing to compensate their emissions by issuing those or by buying those climatic credits. So this project is producing a lot of robust data, a lot of methodologies, and tools which are implemented within the project duration. So the direct impact of the project is ensured and measured at the end of the project, and those credits are expected to be sold at the end of the project. So the project is very complete, and also it's going to be replicated in another area in Spain and also in Italy. So thank you very much for your attention, and I pass the floor to my colleague, Bernd.
Thank you, Hana. As you have seen, a lot is being done under climate change mitigation, but we also know that the effects of climate change are visible, can be felt in terms of rising temperatures, increasing natural disasters like heavy rain events, stormwater events, and so on. So for this reason, we also need to invest on how to mitigate the consequences of climate change. And for this, we have the second topic under this LIFE subprogram Climate Action, which is a climate change adaptation, with the topic ID LIFE 2021 SAP Klima-CCA. At the center of the climate change adaptation is the new EU strategy on adaptation to climate change. And we are helping to implement the EU strategy on adaptation to climate change with overall support, of course, to the Paris Agreement, where adaptation has been recognized as an important factor when fighting against the consequences of climate change. We also support the current proposed European climate law. The aim of this topic is first to create the awareness of the importance of climate change adaptation. Often it's not fully recognized, or it's difficult to capture it, to picture it. What does it mean? And we encourage you to propose pilot and demonstration projects and innovations which help to protect our society from the impacts of climate change. And I mean, all sectors of society should be included. We would like to see synergies with other plans, with other policies. We would also like to see the new investments coming up by also involving the private investment sector. For climate change adaptation for the 2021 call, we propose 9 scopes for which you can apply. We have adaptation policy development, the development of state-of-the-art tools and solutions. We look at nature-based solutions. An important part is the adaptation in cities and regions. We look at climate proofing and resilience of infrastructure and buildings. Very important part is to look for adaptation solutions for farmers, forest managers, in relation to Natura 2000 areas with their managers and other land managers. We look at the water management as a whole. we want to increase the preparedness for extreme weather events. And as already mentioned, we would like to include financial instruments and find innovative solutions in terms of public-private collaborations, for example, on insurance and loss data. For the first scope, the first and the second scope is sort of new in terms of adaptation, or let's say it's singled out. It's not really new because we, in the past, we have been encouraging potential proposers to increase the knowledge base of adaptation, and this relates to building awareness among our citizens. So we look under the first scope on adaptation policy development and adaptation strategies and plans. Looking at various different EU strategies, regional programs, the common agriculture policy, for example, and to see where we can build synergies and increase the effects of interventions we do. Of course, very important are the support to the implementation of regional adaptation strategies and plans, regional and national. We encourage the exchange of best practices, in particularly among outermost regions and their neighboring countries. And we would like to foster through, with your help, foster a policy coherence of climate risk management. Of course, we would like to see the implementation part of it. So it cannot just be standalone. The same applies for the second scope, state-of-the-art tools and solutions for adaptation. They need to be embedded into a clear implementation projects and need to be applied and not just developed. So for the second scope, the possible areas of invention is the development of state-of-the-art tools or the enhancement of existing tools from, for example, the research community coming out of for example, European projects like Horizon Europe, and to make them fit for application. Those can be adaptation modeling, risk assessment, decision support tools, and how to apply and implement them in very concrete projects. We would like to enhance adaptation monitoring, reporting, and evaluation in order to provide decision makers with better tools and equip them better for their decision making. And also looking at ex-ante project assessment tools to identify co-benefits, positive impacts on other sectors like the economy, like the society, to avoid distortion in those sectors. For the third one, I would like to hand over to my colleague, Laura.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Laura Giappichelli, and I'm working in the LIFE program in the team focusing on climate change adaptation. I will guide you through this scope. Scope number 3, it's about nature-based solution in the field of climate adaptation. And we encourage projects working on, for example, blue-green infrastructures, for management of coastal marine ecosystems, but also restoration, protection of peatlands, as well as, for instance, nature-based solutions for management of forests or farmland, and also in the urban context. As you can see from the slide, we have also some examples of possible areas of intervention. We encourage projects, for example, in developing quantified, informed data about nature-based solutions that can help decision makers to have informed decisions. But also we can have examples of projects, can be projects working on stimulating new investments in nature-based solutions, or working, for example, on carbon farming approaches. Now I leave the floor to my colleague Bernd for the next scope.
Thank you, Laura. So it's going to be a little bit of a ping pong. because we share the various scopes and priorities here. So as you already said, Laura, an important field is to make cities and local communities more resilient, to adapt cities and regions to the effects of climate change. Large metropolitan areas are struggling with heat island effects because of densely built up areas. Communities in other parts in Europe, they are confronted with changed weather patterns, and they are confronted with heavy rain events, with flooding, leading to damages and loss of property and sometimes even health and life. The possible areas of intervention for this scope is working with and through the Covenant of Mayors. The Covenant of Mayors is a large network in Europe supporting local authorities in developing strategies, in setting up plans and implement those plans through the so-called SECAPs, the Sustainable Energy and Climate Action Plans. And we support, through the LIFE program, we support local authorities in the implementation of those plans. Very closely related is also the European Climate Pact. So through the European Climate Pact, we try to encourage local actors down to the citizens in becoming active in mitigating the risk of climate change, and start being active by starting small initiatives, whether it's greening their roofs or facades or putting water storage possibilities. And of course, we are talking about building the enhanced resilience in a just and a fair way, and not to leave anybody behind. We also want to look into new digital and smart solutions. And with this, I would like to encourage cooperation also with the respective programs, and to see how digital solutions can help to better forecast and implement measures. We would like to inspire, encourage, and empower individual Europeans to take direct actions. And for this, we offer also third-party grants in our funding mechanism, so that associations can apply for small funds to realize innovative new ideas. But also we would focus on we would like to focus on supporting building the knowledge base, train people, reskill people, and prepare and create diversification strategies in terms of a new moving towards a new job market. Maybe just a small example, which I consider as quite interesting, in how the consortium of the LIFE Airfit project is working towards the challenge. Cities in the Netherlands, they are confronted with water from above, water from below, from left and from right, given the climatic situation, but also the geomorphological situation. So they are experimenting with new technologies, or let's say reusing known technologies from the construction sector in an urban setting to help mitigating the risk of stormwater events, and to reduce the risk of flooding by fast and high volume infiltration techniques. And the interesting part is the direct cooperation between the private sector and the local authority, not just in a setting of the private sector being the service provider, but working together in a co-creation process together with the local authority in finding a solution on how to get rid of the excess water in a very quick and an effective way without damaging the environment by, for example, cleaning the water before it reaches the groundwater aquifers. So there is a highly technological innovation with it. Of course, it carries a certain risk, and we are willing and open to fund this kind of risk, because sometimes these technologies and innovations, they will not lead to the desired results, and they need to be readjusted, and we need to find out what are the barriers. And for this, you have our support to tackle these kind of barriers and try to overcome them. The project has a very clear intervention logic with very concrete activities, but also in terms of the monitoring and the measurements, they're very clearly set out quantified targets with a clear baseline and the target where the project wants to head to. And they involve relevant project partners and key stakeholders, which will then also allow for a replication across the country and even beyond by involving also partners from the neighboring regions. The same applies for the scope number 5, climate proofing and resilience of infrastructure and buildings. So we have as possible areas of intervention synergies with the broader work of risk prevention, disaster risk prevention and reduction when it comes to critical infrastructure, whether it's transport infrastructure, whether it's IT infrastructure, but also the construction, renovation of buildings, including the cooperation with national standardization organizations to make national standards more climate proof. Laura, it's your turn again.
Thank you very much, Bernd. So scope number 6 of the climate change adaptation call for proposal, it's about adaptation solutions for farmers, forest managers, Nature 2000 managers, and other land managers. As you can see, the scope of this specific part of the call for proposal, it's about agriculture and forestry. So 2 of the main areas where climate change is heavily impacting. We look indeed into projects that can help to speed up uptake, climate resilience, decision support tools in these specific areas. As it was reminded at the very beginning of the presentation, of course, such tools need to be deployed during the implementation of the project. We look also, for example, into projects that have solutions for water management, water retention capacity in landscape, but also water saving technologies and practices in agriculture. We also look into projects, as an example, that have financial incentives for land-based carbon removals. After this slide, I have one example. So in the next slide, I would like just to talk to you briefly about one very successful project. It took place in France. It has been recently finalized. It's called Life Forecast. This is just to give you an example of a very successful tool that has been developed by this project. This tool helps to diagnose the risk of dieback of forests, of trees. So it gives a very precise information to forest managers on what they should do, what decision they should take about trees, what is the replanting, the afforestation method, and other types of information. What is interesting and important to retain is that this tool is currently used by the park, which is the key beneficiary of this project, but is also uptaken at national level. So it's a clear example of a project where a tool has been developed. It really addresses a key gap, so a knowledge gap, but also a management gap, and it's actually currently in use. After this slide, I pass the floor to my colleague Bernd for the next scope.
Okay, thank you. Water management also was reflected in the previous years in terms of priority, but for this year, it's particularly spelled out with regards to making the management of water across different sectors and borders more climate resilient, more sustainable, and better manageable. And here we not only look at the reduction of the water use and to increase the water saving performance in terms of products, for example, increasing the water efficiency, but also looking at the wider scope when it comes to drought management plans, for example, or the management of water in the agriculture and the land use. But it also goes down to the individual when we look at individual savings. Again, here the third-party granting could be a very suitable and useful tool to engage housing owners associations in providing good examples of water saving. Finally, we would also like to look at the secure supply of drinking water. The scope number 8 reads preparedness for extreme weather events. We would like to see proposals which make communities and society more resilient to extreme weather events, for example, storms. And here we, in particular, we look at the outermost regions and would like to make outermost regions more prepared for these extreme weather events in terms of hurricanes and tropical storms. And you're really welcome to submit proposals in that area from those areas, and they will be very much welcomed by us and the colleagues from DG Climate Action. And the last one, Laura, you are the expert on financial instruments and with insurance sector, so I leave the floor to you again.
Thank you very much, Bernd. So this is the last scope of the climate adaptation call for proposal. It's about financial instruments, innovative solution, and private-public collaboration on insurance and loss data. In this scope, we look into projects that have best practices or innovative practices in financial instruments for managing risks, but also that help to increase the penetration of insurance in the management of natural disasters. We also look into projects, for example, that create a collaboration, a partnership between insurers, policymakers, administration, local or regional authorities, but also other stakeholders. I have the opportunity to present you in the next slide an example that really fits perfectly this scope. It's a life diaries, as you can see from the slide. It took place in Italy. It has been led by a very interesting consortium because it's already the consortium, let's say the partnership that we were talking about 1 minute ago. So we have insurer company, Unipol, we have a municipality, the municipality of Turin, we have also an academic consortium, we have also local, what we call Agenda 21, and we have ANCI, which is a network of different municipalities in Italy, the national network. What are the issues that this project addressed? What we were saying before, so the problem that many companies, in this case, the project focuses on small, medium enterprises, are heavily subject to climate events, and they can also stop or terminate their operational work if a climate event destroys, for example, part of the machines, of the machineries. Many of these companies don't have adequate means to prevent, to manage the risk of climate extreme events, like floods, for example. So the life diaries worked on different levels. Worked on raising awareness, worked on increasing information capacities, both at level of municipalities, but also within the companies that were part of this pilot work. One of the key results that the project developed is a tool which is now currently being used by many SMEs in Italy. It provides companies with a very easy tool to assess and also identify which solutions can be feasible at which cost, of course. But this is not the only result. The project also worked, as I mentioned at the beginning, with this partnership between insurers and municipalities. One example is this campaign that was led in Turin, which is called Torino che protegge, so Torino that protects. And as you can see in the slide, we have other many points in Italy, and these are basically the cities that have also launched a similar campaign. So in this project, we can also see what we call in the life jargon replication. So the project replicated a good practice, this campaign Torino che protegge, in other cities in Italy, more than 10 cities in Italy. So it's a very good example. I invite you to look at their website. Even if the project finished, there is a lot of information where you can get, of course, a better and picture of what they have done in the field. With this slide, I end up with climate adaptation, and I pass the floor to my colleague Diana Oancea, who will go through the climate governance and information topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Hello, everyone. My name is Diana Oancea, and I am working in the LIFE team on governance and information, and also on climate adaptation, water-related projects. Today, I will be guiding you through the climate governance and information topic. To start with, I will just state a bit what the objectives of this topic are. So basically, it aims to support the development, implementation, monitoring, and enforcement of EU legislation and policy on climate change, contributing to climate change mitigation and climate change adaptation. There are 2 points that are very important for us, and we would like to stress them from the beginning. Awareness-raising activities on their own are not sufficient to achieve this objective. This we have seen in our practice, in our experience of years of projects. Just having an awareness-raising campaign is not sufficient to change behavior or to change practices. Then for projects that intend to develop tools or studies or methodologies, we advise them to include concrete actions to implement those tools and studies during the duration of the project. Next slide, please. Yes, and then now that we have gone through the basics, we are going to plunge into the scope. We have 10 scopes for governance and information, and for every scope, I will try to kind of give you a sort of example, 1 or 2 examples, just to see what kind of projects we could have. So the first scope is to support the operation of the European Climate Pact. As it has been mentioned before, the European Climate Pact, it's all about encouraging and facilitating climate-friendly behaviors and practices. At local and regional level, it's all about bottom-up approaches. It's about communities making their voices heard and contributing to developing climate resilient policies. It's about communicating about climate possibly in an innovative way. And applicants can carry on their projects, or, and this is a novelty for this year, they can find third parties to carry the activities, and they can support them financially. This is what we call third-party financing. Then the second scope is incentivizing behavioral change, mainstream emission reductions, and resource and energy efficiency actions. Behavior change, this could be a wide range of measures. Maybe I would just mention as an example, you could have projects that upgrade labeling and certification of skills necessary for climate change mitigation and adaptation actions. This is maybe one area that it's a bit newer and has not been widely addressed by previous projects. Then if we move to the third scope is awareness raising activities addressing adaptation and mitigation needs. And here we would encourage a wide range of projects in areas that you have heard before in adaptation and mitigation, like, for example, helping public authorities to further develop mitigation and adaptation policies, or help the rollout of solutions that try to improve the resilience of buildings and infrastructure, or support the rollout of nature-based solutions for adaptation in land, coastal, and marine areas, or promote financial instruments and encourage public-private collaborations to reduce the share of uninsured climate-related economic losses. So quite a broad scope. Then scope number 4, activities linked to the development and implementation of sustainable finance action. The aim is, of course, to drive the integration of climate mitigation and adaptation considerations into the EU financial system. And therefore, we will welcome projects that try to improve the transparency, accessibility, and comparability of data, but also projects that try to develop or promote more innovative financial solutions. For example, that would incentivize the use of nature-based solutions in climate adaptation. The fifth scope, it relates to greenhouse gas emission monitoring and reporting. And there is a need to strengthen, for example, the national, regional, and local capacities to monitor and report on greenhouse gas emissions. And also there is a need to enhance the cooperation and coordination between the different authorities, the different actors that are involved in monitoring and reporting, and we would welcome such projects. Scope number 6, implementation and further development of national 2030 climate and energy strategies, plans, and long-term strategies. And here maybe we would stress that we welcome a particular emphasis on promotion of climate neutrality by 2050, so not only by 2030, and particularly solutions that enhance the cooperation between the different stakeholders. These strategies are really plans that should involve the whole community. So we welcome projects that bring together a broad range of stakeholders, from regional to local authorities, to civil society, businesses. Then scope number 7, development and implementation of green gas accounting and climate change mitigation in the land use sector. The challenge with this sector is the collection and estimation of robust emission and removal data for biomass. And therefore, we would encourage projects that use the spatially explicit geographical data for identification and tracking of land use. Also projects that monitor and estimate the carbon fluxes in soil and biomass. Also, at the same time, currently, the European Commission is working on carbon removal certification. So therefore, we will welcome projects that try to set up and test tools that would support the application of carbon removal certification in land management or in long-lived wood products. Then another area that could be potentially interesting is the establishment of operational linkages between climate-relevant information collected from the ground and the greenhouse gas emission inventories, the national greenhouse gas emission inventories. Scope number 8, the assessment of the function of the EU ETS. basically, we are looking at, we are interested in the way the EU ETS performs, its impacts, the interaction with the energy policy and other policy instruments. And we are particularly keen to see projects that build a broad international network of experts, and also projects that ensure a wider dissemination of knowledge on aspects like emission inventories, projections, monitoring, and evaluation of policies. Scope number 9, building capacity, awareness raising among end users and the equipment distribution chain of fluorinated greenhouse gases. Here, we would like particularly to see more activities on training of personnel to service equipment using climate-friendly alternatives like ammonia or heat recovers, and particularly maybe addressing the geographical imbalances in provision of such trainings. Last scope number 10, is on climate policy monitoring, assessment, and ex post evaluation. And here we would encourage activities that promote robust assessment and evaluation of and ex post evaluation of climate policies and measures at national, regional, and local level. And again, once again, we stress activities that enhance the cooperation between the different stakeholders. Now, if we can move further, I also try to bring forward 2 examples of successful life governance projects. One of these examples is Life Beware. It's an Italian project. And also from the consortium, to start with, we see immediately that this is a consortium that is already well structured to succeed, because it includes municipalities, NGO, innovation agency, academia, so a broad range of stakeholders. And it aimed to prevent flood risks by increasing the water infiltration and storage in urban and rural areas. They implemented a broad range of activities, from informing citizens on water retention and storage, but also complementing with creating a group investments program, so not only providing awareness. Then they started a local participatory process to create a local climate action plan that will actually, this process will be done in 5 municipalities. Then they trained farmers on adaptation farm management practices, and they also work on updating building codes in the participating municipalities. And as a sort of bonus, because up so far we have seen a lot of awareness raising and capacity building, governance related type of actions, they have also included actions that are really implementation actions. So they have developed 6 to 7 sites with sustainable urban drainage systems, and they have prepared the retention basin in a farming area to store water during floods that is going to be used for irrigation during droughts. So really a very complex project. Then the second example, it's a bit of a different nature. It's a Slovenian project, Climate Path 2050, and they were bringing forward a sort of decision support system. So we have together the National Technological Institute, several other sectoral research institutes and private companies. And they were trying to tackle the lack of climate data to inform the decision making. So what they have produced, they produced greenhouse gas emissions projections up to 2050 for LULUCF, energy, industrial processes, agriculture, and waste sectors, and alternative scenarios with additional climate mitigation measures for those sectors. They have also produced a model with macroeconomic and social effects of particular climate energy scenarios. And not only that, so they have not stopped only with producing these models. They have from the start involved and very well collaborated with the authorities. So in the end, the models were used by the Slovenian government to prepare the integrated national energy and climate plan and the mid-century climate strategy that is embedded into the long-term low-emission strategy. And this is it on governance and information. And I pass the floor again to my colleague Bernd. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. So, my dear applicants, or the ones who would like to apply for LIFE funding, by now you should know whether your proposal idea fits or does not fit under our priorities, scopes, or areas of intervention. If so, then you may want to decide to write a proposal. And in the next couple of slides, I would like to provide you with additional information on where do you find the information, what will you expect in terms of forms to fill in, and how do we read and evaluate a proposal. So first, the call document. We will have one call document for live climate action. So there will be a specific call document for the live climate action, and you will find this form on the funding and tenders portal. Together with other documents supporting you with the development of the proposal. Let's quickly look into the structure of the call document so that you can easily find the information which you need. There will be, of course, an introduction to the LIFE program, the background on the different sub-programs like nature and biodiversity, circular economy and quality of life, climate change mitigation and adaptation, clean energy transition. This should help you in case of doubts, because sometimes you are maybe not fully sure, does my idea fit more under circular economy and quality of life, or shall I prepare or present the idea to climate change mitigation or adaptation? So this first chapter should help you to answer sort of the question and then choose the right document. So this first chapter will be common to all the call documents. So in the call document for example, circular economy and quality of life, you will find the same background, but then of course you will find the concrete scope and areas of intervention related to circular economy and quality of life. The second part, type of action, objectives, themes, priorities, activities which can be funded. This is where you find the detailed description of the priorities which we have just presented to you. So that's in a way the core and the important part of the call document when it comes to the priorities and the detailed individual intervention areas. Then chapter 3 will provide information on the available budget for this call, chapter 4 the timetable and the deadlines. Chapter 5 will provide you information with the admissibility and the required documents for this. The chapter 6 is about the eligibility of a proposal. What are the eligible countries? What is the minimum consortium composition, eligible activities, geographic location? But here I just want to ensure you, the ones who are familiar with the LIFE program, it remains more or less the same. So it can be a single country submission, even a single applicant can submit. And activities, eligible activities remain similar to what we had in the past. Same also in terms of geographic location. Chapter 7 is important in terms of the financial and operational capacity and the potential exclusion. So you have to demonstrate that you are able to manage such a project, and don't overestimate yourself. It can sometimes be also a burden. You know that the life projects will be co-funded through the European Commission with 60%. That means 40% will have to come from your own resources. Chapter number 8 will look into the evaluation and award procedure, and chapter number 5 will list the award criteria. Again, climate topics and priorities here, and chapter number 2. Then finally, we have chapter 10, 11, 12 and 13, where we have information on further aspects, where we give you advice on the starting date, how you write the milestones, the deliverables, pre-financing guarantees, certificates, and so on and so on. So the document is very comprehensive and should provide you with all the answers to the questions which you have. In addition, we will publish on the website a frequently asked question page based on the on questions which we receive from applicants. So we will provide additional information if needed on the website. So this is the application, the call document, which provides you the background information, and now you will have to start writing the application. And here a lot has changed. We are using the application mechanism and system, which is also used by Horizon Europe program. So many programs of the European Commission, which have used their own tools, they have been put under the umbrella of the Horizon tools, which simplifies for applicants the procedural mechanisms. So those ones who are familiar with Horizon tools, they will find it rather easy. The ones who come from the LIFE community, you will also find it easy, because the principle is the same. We want to see a proposal where you describe well your idea, where you describe well your activities, and where you describe the impacts, the quantified impacts. Only the structure has changed a little bit, the forms have changed a little bit, but in terms of overall information, this is more or less the same as we had in the past. On the funding and tender portal, you will have in the LIFE program different application forms, and for the standard action projects, so the proposals which we are discussing right now in this session, is you have to use the application form for the SAP, the standard action projects, but they also serve for the other action grants and the technical assistance. Just a side remark, because you might now immediately ask the question, oh, can we ask for technical assistance to develop our proposal? No, technical assistance is only for strategic integrated projects and not for standard action projects. So you have to cover the development and the writing of the proposal yourself, and you also have to fund it yourself. So the structure of the proposal is the following. We have three main parts. The part A, which are administrative forms, they are you have to fill in online certain masks with information, and this information then is generated in the submission system and compiled together then with the part B, which is the technical description. This one is written in a a text editor like Microsoft Word, and you upload then the technical description as a portable document format plus the annexes in the submission system. And the part C is about the key performance indicators. As said, we focus very much on quantified results. So we also want you to quantify the expected impacts in terms of indicators. For example, how much CO2 will the action save? How many tons of fluorinated gases will be saved? How many people or how many hectares of land will be made more resilient to climate change? So you will find quite detailed guidance for that. For the part A, the administrative forms, as said, you fill in windows in the submission system. So you write the project summary in such a field. Please be aware the project summary is really important because that's the business card of your proposal. Many people involved in the evaluation, they're only reading the summary or they first read the summary, and that gives the initial impression of the proposal. Then you have the list of participants in part A, the list of work packages. You write about the staff efforts in the work packages. You put the deliverables there, the milestones, the list of the critical risks. Then you will have tick boxes where you indicate which sector the proposal will address. This is not an exclusive or eligibility criteria. It's for us so that we are able to classify the proposal and assign the right independent expert to the proposal. And there will be also a section where you write about participant information, so the key staff, the project activities, and also the affiliates, if you should have some that's relevant for the private and commercial entities. The part B, and I will go into a little bit more detail of the part B. Of course, you have a cover page, table of contents, and then a project summary, which is generated out of the part A, which I have just described. So again, please write a good, consistent, and a well-written project summary. Watch out, we have character and page limits. So this is new. I mean, the ones who were used to the previous submission system, we had limits. Yes, we also had limits in characters. But here, the risk is, or you have to control it yourself. If you go beyond the page limits, and the page limit is 120 pages. If you go beyond the page limit, it will be just cut off, and the evaluator will not read those pages. You will not be able to read those pages because they will just be black, done by the automatically by the IT system. The proposal forms, they contain instructions. So there might be clever people and say, oh, I remove the instructions, I gain more space. Don't do that, please. Otherwise, you risk that the proposal is not eligible. So keep and leave the instructions there. And the page limit includes your text plus the instructions. So we have different chapters. So what should you write? There is the first chapter where you write about the relevance of your idea, the proposal idea, the concept. So it's about the background and the general objectives, where you write about the problem you want to address, the pre-operational circumstances, the situation you encounter, and then you develop the specific objectives, how you want to tackle these problems. You write about how it does comply with the life with life in general, and with the specific call topics. You write about the concept and the methodology you apply in achieving the objectives. You write about how you upscale from other EU projects. So obviously we expect, if you write a specific topic about a specific theme, like the saving of or increasing the efficiency of, let's say, air conditioning equipment, then of course we expect that you are aware of the projects, which my colleague Darek has, for example, shown, that you're aware of the project, that you're aware of the results of the project, and that you will build on the results of this kind of project, but not only live projects, but also other EU projects. You should show complementarity with other actions you do, or other actions which have been done by other stakeholders, by other actors. We would like to see synergies with other live programs, that you connect with them, that you create also synergies to and co-benefits to other policies. So that you, for example, if you develop a new technology for reducing or increasing the efficiency of air conditioning equipment, or reducing the F gases there, that you also write about the job creation potential, for example, or how you apply just transition if these kind of technologies are applied. Now, I would like to mirror for you the award criteria as they are set out in the multi-annual work program 2021-2024. So those are written. This is the text from the multi-annual work program, and you will find them also in the call document. And what you can see is that the award criterion or award criteria, they're mirroring the chapters of your document. So the relevance will be looked upon in terms of the relevance of the contribution to one of the several of the specific objectives of the LIFE program and the targeted sub-program. We look at the extent to which a project is in line with the description included in the call for proposals, including where relevant its specific priorities. So this is what my colleagues and myself presented before in terms of the scopes and the areas of interventions. Here we will provide scores how much you address these priorities. We will provide scores for the soundness of the overall intervention logic, and we will provide respective scores in how the project offers co-benefits and promotes synergies with other policy areas. So in total, you can achieve up to 20 points in this with a minimum threshold of 10 points in order to be successful. The second chapter of your proposal, of the technical description, is the impact. So you write about the impact. And here we want to read about the ambition of the impact, the credibility of the impact. So we want to see quantified results. We want to see also the path you will achieve this. Sometimes we see very high amounts of CO2 savings, but we do not understand how will this be achieved. So be precise and describe how you want to achieve this and in which time frame. And of course, I mean, having impact in an adaptation proposal, particularly when we talk about green adaptation, where we deploy nature-based solutions, the impacts take much longer time than if you are working in an industrial process and you you implement a new heat recovery process. You're right about the sustainability of the results. Of course, we want to have lasting results which last beyond the project duration. The exploitation of results we want to know for all types of projects, and even if it's a rather soft governance project, you still can write about how you exploit the results and make them last. And we would like to see the catalytic potential in terms of replication, upscaling, either in different regions or in other sectors. Here we have the same that the award criterion 3 in this case. We look at the impact, so the evaluators will use this guidance for assessing the chapter on impact. So it's the ambition and the credibility of the impact, it's the sustainability of the results, it's the potential of the project's results to be replicated or scaled up, and the quality of the measures for exploitation of the project's results. We have, again, 20 points to provide as maximum, with 10 points is the minimum you have to achieve to be successful. But watch out, and this is what you will read in the multi-annual work program and the call document, that there's a weighting factor of 1.5. So in fact, this criterion is worth 30 points in terms of 20 points. So it's the most important aspect we look upon when we assess your project. For the third chapter, we look at the implementation, which is then really the core of your proposal. You demonstrate how you will do it, the work plan, who are the stakeholders you involve, you describe the work packages, the individual activities, you provide the timetable, how you do the monitoring, how you do the reporting, the communication, dissemination, visibility. And so you provide work packages. In the previous language, it was called actions. Now it will be work packages. You describe really how you will implement the ideas you had. Again, the award criterion 2 looks at the quality of the proposal in terms of its clarity, relevance, feasibility of the work plan. We look at the appropriate geographic focus of the activities. We look at the quality of the plan to monitor the report the impacts, the mobilization of the right stakeholders, the communication and the dissemination. Then we get to the fourth part of your technical description, which is a description of the resources you deploy. The resources not only in terms of financing resources, but also in terms of human resources and the setup, how you manage the project, like the consortium setup, the project management. You also should describe in how far you deploy green management tools like EMAS, like in procurement and whatsoever. And then we have also the budget, where you describe in detail how what the rationale is in terms of the budgeting. And we would like to read about the risk management. We are interested, of course, in risks which are highly probable and have a high impact. And award criterion 4 is assessing then the resources with maximum 20 points, also the threshold 10 points. So the composition of the project team, the appropriateness of the budget, transparency of the budget. We look at the environmental impacts considered and mitigated. And overall, we look at the value for money of the proposed project. I mean, we are providing co-funding, which comes from taxpayers' money of citizens from the European Union, and we want to be sure that these amounts are well spent. And then we will have other chapters like, well, the ethics and security is not relevant for us, but there are declarations, and also annexes, like there will be a detailed budget table requested from you, and then also in terms of letters of support, of course, where relevant, you provide them, and we look at them and consider them also in the evaluation if they're needed and relevant. As an annex here, the detailed budget table. What will you expect? You will have to report or detail the staff efforts, the subcontracting, and the third category is other direct costs, which include travel, equipment, other goods, infrastructure, third parties, and land purchase. So that is a short overview of how the part B of the proposal should look like when you submit it at the latest at the deadline. But before submitting, of course, you should carefully check it and check whether you fulfill the admissibility and the eligibility criteria. Certainly, it needs to be submitted before the deadline, and it needs to be submitted electronically. Don't submit it just before the deadline. Please, you can submit the proposal as often as possible. And it will always maintain the initial, it will always maintain the latest version of the proposal. So in case there is a problem with the electronic submission just before the deadline, we can still evaluate the version which you have uploaded before. Don't wait until the last minute. The proposal needs to be complete, and all the forms need to be filled in and completed as per instructions. The proposal needs to be readable, so the font's not smaller than Arial 9 on A4 format. And as already mentioned, 120 pages, including the instructions. We look at the eligibility. Eligible participants, they need to come from the right countries. So the member states, EU member states, are eligible for the participants, and then we have very few exceptions to this. The consortium composition, eligible activities, and the geographic location. Couple of recommendations. When you start writing the proposal, you can start immediately, start right away, read the relevant information which we provide with the call document and on the website. Limit your objectives. Don't overcomplicate your proposal. It's much easier to build a credible intervention logic on very few precise objectives. Maybe even one objective can be enough. Build a relevant consortium. We are not interested in a large consortium. We are not, of course, we encourage you to deliver EU added value by also partnering with beneficiaries from other countries, but don't make it artificial. Build a consortium which is needed for the for fulfilling the objectives or delivering on the objectives you provide. Link the budget to the activities and check whether the value for money is understandable. We are not interpreting. The independent experts, they will evaluate as the proposal is written, and they will not have time to make simulations and check. Is it worth the money or not? Write it and provide good explanation in case you have very high amounts for, let's say, subcontracting or certain equipment or certain infrastructure. Follow the template and the instructions clearly and submit on time. So my last two slides will quickly go into the evaluation process and provide you with some information to place yourself in terms of the success potential of your application. Of course, we never know how many proposals are submitted, but I mean, we have, our first interest is that we select the excellent projects. We would like to really make a change when it comes to climate change mitigation, climate change adaptation, or improving the governance and information in climate action. But we also want to make best use of the budget which we have available. As you know, we have an annual budget and we want to exploit the budget, but we also want to have motivated applicants so that you apply and that you're not discouraged by a very low success rate. I mean, so far under climate action, we have had a healthy success rate, usually a submission of between 150 and 270 proposals per year, equally distributed, usually between climate change mitigation and climate change adaptation. And we have currently, I mean, for this year, for 2021, this budget available, around 68 million in total, which we distribute 30 million to climate change mitigation, 30 million to climate change adaptation, 8 million to governance and information. A small mistake here in the abbreviation. I will correct this. So those are the GOV projects, 8 million, and with an average size of the project between let's say 1.5 and 4 million. We usually select something in the range of 40 projects per year. So you can make your own calculation that we have a success rate of something like 25–20%, which I consider still as a good success rate. So 1 out of 3 or 4 or 5 usually make it. So it is worth the effort to submit a proposal because the probability that you are selected, if the quality is very good, is relatively high. The EU co-funding will be 60% for the next under this current multi-annual work program, which is lasting until 2024. So my last slide, so that you can already plan. So for the call 2021, the tentative time schedule is that the submission of proposals we foresee for the 30th of November this year. Then we will start the independent evaluation phase, which will last until February, and probably in April, during April, maybe towards the end of the April, we will notify you whether you were successful or not successful. Then we will invite you for a negotiation or revision phase, which usually lasts around 2 months, and then we need some time for the grant preparation. So we expect the grant preparation in July 2022, which means you can expect the start of your project at the latest from August 2022 onwards. So with this, I would like to thank you, and I wish you great success in submitting good, excellent proposals. And we are really very much looking forward to your contributions to the LIFE program. Thank you very much.